Hi guys, welcome to my first ever YouTube live. I'm very excited to be doing this, and so today I'm going to be talking about application tips and scholarship. And just before I do that, I'll do a bit of an introduction of myself. I'm Sarah Mundi, those are my names. I am a counseling psychologist. I also run a business and two businesses actually, and a foundation. I'm also a current Chevening scholar. I'm also a Mandela Washington Fellowship alumni. I was an alumni for Mandela Washington Fellowship in 2019. I am also many other things. Oh, I'm a student. A master's student at Loughborough University. I'm taking a course in business psychology, which I am excited to be doing. So just a second, I was putting my phone on silent because I was getting notifications. So I'm doing a master's in business psychology, and I'm delighted to be doing a live today to just share a couple of tips around the application. So the first thing that you need to know about the Chevening scholarship is that the scholarship pays for your masters and gives you a stipend for every month when you're studying. Also organizes events that you can attend in the course of the entire year. There are lots and lots of events, so you get a chance to travel to different parts of the country while you're in the UK. Chevening only sponsors students in the UK, and it's a scholarship that is funded by the UK government. Now, in terms of eligibility, you do need to do your homework. So you need to visit www.cheveningscholarship.org and find out um, the information around the scholarship and confirm if it's .org or if it's a different link for how to search for the basics eligibility criteria. What's the scholarship about? And what are the questions that are normally asked, so that when you're coming on here to engage in the content that I'm going to be sharing, you're already informed about what the scholarship is about. So I'll begin by my second tip, which is you need to apply early. I started my application in August of 2022, and I submitted it a few days to November. The closing date was on 2nd November, so I uploaded it 2 days before that. I think it was the 30th or the 30th actually of hmm, October, or 31st October is when I submitted my application. So you do need to apply early. One of the problems that happens on the last day when the deadline reaches is that the platform usually hangs because so many people are trying to submit their applications at the same time, and it overloads the system. And that means that if you miss the chance to submit, that's it. You have to submit again next year. I haven't seen Chevening extend the application time just because of the hurdles with submitting application on the so apply early. Tip one. Tip two, if you are able to find Chevening scholars that can review your application, I'd highly encourage that you do that. So I have worked to get a couple of potential applicants matched to scholars. It has been quite a challenge because many of the scholars that I have reached out to, including those in my cohort, are already supporting like over 5 people. One scholar going through essays for all of them and trying to give them as much information as possible. So it's been even a challenge for me to be able to find more scholars to match the people that have already reached out to me directly. However, if you're unable to find a scholar that can review your application, please join a group, Facebook group, WhatsApp group of people that are applying for the scholarship, because in that group you'll have support. You can quickly ask questions and people can answer them as quickly as they can based on their own experiences with the application. And if you're also not able to join any Chevening applicants 2024 2025 groups, both on Facebook or WhatsApp. For Facebook, there are many. For WhatsApp, I don't have any contacts, but I know for Facebook they exist. If you're unable to join them, the least you can do is follow Chevening FCDO on Facebook, because Chevening has been organizing lives every other week or so to talk about the application from different the perspectives of different people, including Chevening alumni and current scholars. So follow their page, attend the lives so that you can be able to get information from those lives. Also, several scholars have been organizing live sessions where they're talking about the application. I am also organizing one that's going to be coming up. I'll tell you the details a bit later on once I'm done with information about the actual tips. If you can find scholars that are doing live sessions to answer questions around the application, please jump in and be very proactive in asking questions around your own essays. And if you need support in contextualizing the answers to your industry, make sure you also ask for that in the group, that in the live events that you'll be attending. Hopefully, you attend the one that I'll be telling you about. Number three is ask for help even from people that are not Chevening scholars, from colleagues, from mentors, from um, the community network that you already exist in. Someone may not be a Chevening scholar, but they will definitely have insight for you about your application. And you need someone who has a bird's eye view to give you a holistic picture of what you're writing, because when you write your own application, you're putting your heart into it and you think you're doing your best, but sometimes you may not be as clear. Sometimes you're writing, but you're not saying anything helpful. So ensure that you ask for as much help as possible. The next tip I'll share is in terms of the actual questions. It's one I've already shared in my videos that I've done before, is using a star approach. Star approach is when you're answering your essays, you remember to have an open statement that says either your belief about the question. If it's a question on leadership, what is your perspective on leadership? What do you believe about being a leader? And then when you're answering the body of the essay, ensure to include a star approach. Give the CD so that that gives you deep or what you have to show about your expertise and your experience that may not be coming out. So make sure to use dedication. So even when you have worked with other team members, you need to show what was your input, what were the results, what did you learn as the individual, because this application is based off of you as the individual and not necessarily the entire team that you have worked with or colleagues that you have worked with. Then the next tip I'd share is that consider doing several drafts and save all of them. Okay, so the first drafts you write, make sure to save them, and then when you're doing your editing, make a copy of the first drafts and then edit the second ones. When you get any more insight from attending any of the previous tips I've shared, go back, make a copy 3 or copy 4, 5, 6, whichever number it is, and edit that so that by the time you're making a submission, you have somewhere where you can go back to and refer for questions that you might have that you don't have answers to, or to see points that you may have forgotten when you are translating or revising your next draft. So ensure you retain your first drafts, your second drafts, and your third drafts, fourth drafts, as many of them, and then read through so that when you're correcting and making the changes that you need to make, those changes are actually, you don't miss any critical information. That's the next tip I'd want to share. The other tip I'd want to share about the application is that you need to consider giving yourself time to actually do it. What I mean by that is begin early, read through all the questions if possible. How I normally recommend reading through all the questions is you just, except for the basic data that you can't, for example, input wrong information, like if it's your phone number, you have to put your actual phone number. But I would recommend putting your, like, just random letters to go through the application so that you see the full application, and then you come back and do the information one by one. Guys, thank you for those that have joined the live. I'm really excited to see you. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat so that I'll be able to answer them as I'm doing this live. I'm going to be stopping at exactly 9:30. Um, so make sure that when you're doing your you read through all the questions and then understand all of the questions and the entire application so that you only share information that is relevant to that application. Another tip I'd share is when you're making the actual writing the essays, please stick with one story. If you decide that you're going to write about your professional career in, I'll use my example. I was applying for to study business psychology. So if you use business psychology as the course you want to study in the UK, you need to show a psychology background when you're writing your leadership essay, when you're writing your networking essay, when you're writing the study in the UK essay, when you're writing your career plan. So you need to pick a field, the field you want to specialize in for your masters, and then when you're writing the essays, tell a story that ties together. So if your first essay on leadership is talking about your background in um, mental health, for example, and then next essay in networking, you're using an example of a background in a business that you opened and that you're running, the readers are already wondering, okay, so they're already getting confused. So what masters do you want to do? Is it for business or is it for mental health? So you need to pick a specific career path and stick with it in your application throughout all the essays that you write. Then once you're done with writing your essays, make sure of course you read them, proofread, correct all the grammatical errors, punctuation errors, those small mistakes that people put on paper thinking that no one is going to care or people are going to understand. Don't do that. Make sure you read through and you correct all the grammatical mistakes. A mistake that I made with my very first drafts was that I wrote very, very good English because I understand the language fairly well and I can articulate myself fairly well. But when I shared them with my friend to review, the first thing he said is that you've written very well, but what exactly are you saying? You haven't said anything. So my first drafts were very generic. But by the time we were done with reviewing the essays, my final drafts were so clear, even I was impressed by the person that is being described in these essays. So you may feel like the first drafts you write explain and articulate your thoughts well and clearly. You may be writing very good English, but you're not saying much. So you need to be very clear and detailed, and especially in using examples that are very specific to you if within your application. Then, in terms of the mental strain that comes with making this application for Chevening, you do need a lot of support. So once you begin your application, tell people that you care about, tell people that are supportive of you so that you have the emotional support and the moral support when you're making your application, because it's a long process. My application I started in August of 2022. I was getting to the UK in this month, September. I arrived on the 14th, 15th. I started my trip on the 14th, I arrived on the 15th. So it's a long process, and you need people that can support you from the beginning all the way up to the very end. So talk about your application to people that you trust and people that are willing to support you through the application. It's emotionally intense, even because you feel like this scholarship is a make, it's a do or die. For some people, it's a do or die, and sometimes you feel like your the judgment that is being made about your application outcome is being made about you as an individual and the work that you're actually doing. But normally, that's not the case. It's that there's a filtering criteria, and it's a big filtering criteria. Like this year, there were 70,960 applicants or thereabout, and this scholarship was only awarded to 1,400 scholars. So that means there's so many filters in between, and you have to give yourself the best chance by making sure that you're passing some of the filters. Like if you're making mistakes with punctuation and articulation, then you're already getting cut out in the beginning steps of the filtering process. So ask for support when you need it. Talk to people about the application from the beginning all the way as you go through the application. The last tip I'd want to share is that there are different perspectives or opinions about whether you should have secured a university unconditional offer before you apply for Chevening. You don't have to have secured it. You do need to have uploaded an unconditional offer by July of the next year. So the what you must have submitted is the actual application. The references that you're going to need to submit, you can submit them later on, because of course it takes some time before you find people that you will convince and people who will write a really good recommendation letter for you. So the first step is the application as you proceed. So you make the application first, then you go back to the portal and you upload your reference letters. There's a timeline that is included. Then you go back and you upload your offers, whether they are conditional or unconditional. By the time you're getting to the interview stage, it helps you if you already have an unconditional offer or are about to get an unconditional offer. Sometimes those scholars, there are people who have gotten an unconditional offer from their university but have not been selected for Chevening even after having made it through to the interview stage. So first prioritize making the application. That would be my recommendation. Then after making the application, proceed to consider the references you need, then the university applications themselves. Within your application, you do need to at least select three universities that you're going to apply to, and it's critical for you to note that you pick one course, only one course, and then you apply for that same course in three universities. Then those three universities that you choose are the universities you put in your application. And then you also go and make an application to those universities for an offer for you to go and study there. Other people recommend that you do the other way. You begin with the uni applications first and then you make the Chevening application. That's not what I did. I started with Chevening, I finished, and then I went to the universities and I made my applications. There's an amazing tip that I had one of the Chevening scholars share when I was preparing for my application and watching a lot of YouTube videos. And she said that when you're selecting the universities you want to go and study in, make sure to choose you choose three. So you choose two very, very good ones, highly ranked, very good universities, and then you also choose one that is like medium to like small, that you are almost 100% sure that this one you'll get in, so that you get and secure an unconditional offer. That offer, it's up to you to secure it. If you don't, then you can't be given a scholarship and you can't change from the three universities that you select in your application. So that's the other critical information to share with you. When you're making the choice of the universities, please ensure that you do a lot of research on each specific university, the modules, where is the university located, what's the cost of living there, how affordable is accommodation in that area, what programs does the school run outside of the learning actual course that would interest you, that align either with your hobbies or with your career plan or things like that. We will be answering a lot more questions when we continue, but for now, those are some pointers you need when you're doing the research about the universities that you want to go to, and you also need to align those universities with the scholarship. And just to reiterate that the scholarship only pays for the learning. So Chevening pays to the school for your learning, pays for your air ticket, pays for your gives you money for upkeep, which you then pay your own accommodation from. And you can actually do a whole year and study without working a single day because Chevening gives you enough of a stipend to support you and your travel expenses, your food, your upkeep, your library costs, all those costs are included in the stipend you get. So you can actually fully study and not work at all once you're selected for Chevening. But Chevening doesn't apply to the university for you, you do that for yourself. Chevening doesn't apply for a visa for you, you do that for yourself. But for now, I'm just dissecting the information that is relevant for you at this point of application. So that once you have submitted your application, I'm hoping you consider subscribing to this channel and you can be able to progress with me as I'll be sharing the content as you're progressing so that you're also aware of okay, you've submitted what's next references, how do you get the right referees, how do you get them to write the right letters for you, how do you write a personal statement, so we'll move progressively. But for now, we are only focusing on the application. Then in terms of the kind of um, quality of the application you write, you need to show or contextualize to your industry. Of course, when you write your first drafts, it's likely to be very generic. But as you continue, you should be very, very clear and articulate about you, the individual, and the course, and why Chevening is the right scholarship for you to be able to pursue this course. And this is one of the scholarships that cares deeply for community impact. And so, one of the key requirements is that after you finish your Chevening scholarship, you have to come back home. And if you don't want to come back home, and this is not like the career plan that you have for yourself, Chevening is not the right scholarship for you to apply for because you have a 2 year mandatory return home policy if you get selected for Chevening. Why? Because they care about community impact and what you're going to do with the knowledge you gain back home. And so that means you can't just study and then finish and then stay in the UK. No, you do have to go back home for 2 years and then you can leave. Within that 2 year period, of course, you can travel, but for short periods of time. There aren't any restrictions per se in terms of you traveling, for example, for work or for like other things like family or just to visit or tourism. But those 2 years, you have to finish them in your home country. So those are some of the tips around the application. And when you're answering a question on career, remember to add that one of the things in your career plan is that when you come back home, you want to do one, two, three. It's very reassuring because the scholarship demands that you do come back home. There are many other scholarships that you could consider applying for. This window of September and partly November and December, very, very partly, is usually an application window for a lot of scholarships. A second one that I would say you consider is Erasmus Mundus Commonwealth, which is also run by the UK government, are two that I would recommend you also check out. I am putting together a PDF that will have all the scholarships both for postgraduate and for undergraduates that I will have done my due diligence on, and then we'll definitely have access to that. In terms of next steps, so next week on Saturday, I'm going to be having a conversation with another Chevening scholar. Her name is Kavuga, Janet Kavuga. So we will be answering the first two questions on the essays, and this is an opportunity for you to come to attend that live and have those questions answered. The live is going to be on Saturday at 6 p.m. UK time, which is 8 p.m. East African time. Then, depending on your time zone, you can call in. You can find out what time exactly that will be. The live is going to be strictly 1 hour. We'll answer the questions of those first two essays as well as the questions from the chat that we will receive from the audience that will attend the live. So please consider marking your calendar. So Saturday, 6 p.m. British Standard Time or 8 p.m. East African Time to join me on this account. Just my normal YouTube account. We'll be having a live answering those first two questions. Then the next week, the same time, we have another guest, and both of us will be answering the other two questions about the essays. So do ensure you show up and that you come with a note, a pen and paper, and you actively ask whatever questions you might be having that we may not have answered, or that may be applied to you very specifically that you may not have gotten an answer to. Please note that this for me is how I'm intending and opting and choosing to give back, because it's too overwhelming to be able to see all the people that have actually reached out to me directly. I have been very active in sharing my experience with Chevening on social media and on my LinkedIn profile. So a couple of people have reached out to me to ask for support. There are many to whom I've not been able to help, and that's why I'm doing this live, so that then, if for those who I have not been able to help personally, we can be able to still share that information, both from my own experience, from the experience of other scholars as well, and give something that is a lot more holistic. So I'm going to say thank you to each of you for having joined me for this live. I have enjoyed doing it. It's my first live ever. So if you like the kind of content that I've been sharing around the application, please consider subscribing to my channel. Also consider ringing the notification bell, because I'll put up a marketing ad for the live, so that you can be able to know exactly when it's going to be happening, which is the information that I've already shared. It's just a reminder for you in case maybe for some reason you forget to set a reminder on your phone. So thank you for joining me. Consider subscribing to this channel. If there are questions you have that the tips I have shared today have brought up for you, or that you feel like have not yet been answered, please consider also leaving them in the chat, and I'll then be able to come back and ask them. I'm wishing you the best with your application. I know it's intense, I know it's competitive, but you have what it takes. So have yourself a good rest of your time, and I will see you again very, very soon.